Hello, happy Monday to you all, and welcome to the I Do in the Caribbean Facebook group. If you're joining me live on YouTube, you can also join me on the Facebook group I Do in the Caribbean. And this group is created for couples looking to have a destination wedding in the Caribbean or Mexico. So I come on weekly if I can to give you information on just helping you with the destination wedding planning process. So I'm Sandra. I'm the admin for the group. So if you have any questions on planning your destination wedding, you can reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you answer those questions. I also am a travel advisor, so I do plan destination weddings. So if you want to utilize my service, you can also contact me because I help couples also plan their destination wedding without being overwhelmed or without being stressed. So today, my topic is the destination wedding planning process. So to me, before you start thinking about planning your destination wedding, you need to understand what the wedding planning process is. And I'm hoping I can share enough information with you so that can help you along your journey. So the first thing I would say about having a destination wedding is also just making sure that a destination wedding is right for you. A lot of people, our couple might want to have a destination wedding, but when they think hard about it, it's really not going to be a good idea for them. And one of the things why it might not be a good idea is if you have friends or family that you want to attend that can't attend. So that could, deter you from having a destination wedding, or maybe the destination wedding won't be good for you because the people that you want to attend won't be able to attend. Also, there is passport requirements if you're going to countries other than the U.S. Virgin Islands or under the U.S. or Puerto Rico that requires a passport. So if your guests are going to need a passport, they will have to apply for one, and they need that to travel international. So that could be a deterrent. Also, the cost of attending your wedding. It's not a domestic wedding. It's going to be in a foreign location. So anyone you're inviting must be able to afford it. They have to pay for their airfare and also for the resort. So that could be very costly depending on where you're picking for your destination. So, this is the first thing I would say. Think about who are you going to be inviting and can they afford to attend your wedding? So the next thing I would say about planning your destination wedding is also starting early. If you're looking to have a destination wedding, you should be planning out minimum 6 months, but at least a year in advance. And having a year in advance, it just, gives you time to plan your destination wedding properly, and also give your guests enough time to be able to afford your destination wedding, mean that they have over 12 months to put on a deposit and pay over time. So that just gives them more time to be able to attend your wedding. So to me, giving your guests ample notice and also giving yourself time to plan your destination wedding 6 or more months out. The ideal time is 12 months out. So you'll have enough time, your guests will have enough time to know if they can attend your wedding and be able to afford to come to your wedding. So definitely, that is a good reason why you want to get, you want to start early so you can plan and have everyone who wants to attend. And also, I would say just create a guest list. Who do you think you're going to be inviting to your wedding? And just looking at lists and seeing in what type of like resort you're going to want, because that's something that's going to determine are there going to be kids at your wedding? Is it just going to be adult only? So you want to look into these things and look at your list to see before you start planning what are you exactly going to be looking for. The next thing I would say to couple is just make sure you have a realistic budget, meaning that if you don't have, you have to budget before you start planning. Like, how much are you willing to spend on this wedding? And when I mean that budget, I just don't mean the wedding cost. I mean everything to get you from point A to point B. How much is that going to cost you? Can you afford to do that? In a wedding budget, you should have the cost of the resort. What is it going to cost you to stay at a resort for 5 days? Because most wedding couples need to stay at a resort about 5 days. You need to arrive 2 or 3 days before, depending on the type of wedding you're having, and then the wedding day and maybe one day after. So for the wedding couple, they need to be on resort at least 5 days. For the guests, the minimum stay for most resort is 3 nights. So think about that when you're planning your wedding. How much is it going to cost you to be on the resort for 5 nights? the flights to get to that resort. That's definitely something you have to think about because, flight cost definitely right now is going up. So if you're looking to the wedding end of this year, early next year, that's a big consideration to think about because, I'm in New York, and going from New York to Montego Bay, it's almost like $800 per person. So that is a big cost to try to go to a destination wedding. So that's something I would say definitely think about when you're doing that. The cost of the wedding package. That's going to be part of your budget. So it's the resort, the flight, the cost of the wedding package, depending on how many people are invited, the additional cost for additional people. Most wedding package only includes a cost for 20 people. So if you include in 30 people, 10 additional person, you have to pay extra for those people. So these are things you really need to think about. The extras, videography, photography, decor. If you're doing a beach wedding and you want a reception on the beach, do you need a tent? Some resort require you to have a tent if you're doing a beach wedding. Some don't. But if you are you gonna have a DJ, are you gonna have a dance floor? These are all additional costs that are not included in the wedding package. So this is something you definitely need to be aware of. How much does that cost me? How much do I need to have this wedding? So, and your wedding attire, of course, your wedding dress, his clothes, what you need to pack to take on vacation. If you're going to be doing welcome bags, these are all costs of having your destination wedding. And you really should put pen to paper and jot down, estimate what you think each category will cost. So you can have an understanding of how much your wedding is going to cost. Because looking at this is way over $10,000 already. Easily, your room could be $2,500, your flight could be $1,000. DJ in most resort is probably $800. Videography, photographer might be $2,500. So you really have to put some numbers around that to see, is it going to be cost effective for you to have this wedding? So definitely something to think about when you're doing that. The next thing I would say you need to think about is picking the right destination. If you're going to have this destination wedding, you want to have it, how do you pick the right destination for your wedding? So the first thing I would say look at is ease of getting there. Depending on where you are in the country, you want to make sure there's direct flights to your destination that you're choosing. I'm in New York, so almost every Caribbean location there are direct flight, and it can be cheaper. And then for me, I have multiple ways of getting there. I can go to JFK, I can go through LaGuardia. If I'm really desperate, I can go to Newark in New Jersey. So depending on the cost and where it's feasible for me, I would try to look at destination that is very easy for people to get a direct flights to, and the costs are not humongous. The next thing I would say, if you're picking a destination, you want to look at the wedding requirement. What is a marriage requirement? If you're doing a legal wedding and you want to get married in Mexico or DR, the wedding requirement is certainly different if you want to get married in St. Lucia, Jamaica. Each country has a different requirement. I guess the one I would really worry about is if you're doing a legal wedding in Mexico or Dominican Republic. Those are both Spanish-speaking countries. In Mexico, it requires you to have a blood work. So that's why you have to get your 3 or 4 business days before, because you have to go through all these items that you need for a legal wedding. So, definitely consider what the requirement for getting married in that country before you pick that destination, because that can have a deterrent on you getting married there. If you're doing a symbolic wedding, it's very easy. Most resorts, you come there 2 days before, a day before the wedding, 2 days before the wedding, because you fly in on one day, you meet with the wedding coordinators the next day, and the next day could be a wedding. So that's why you need to get there 2 days minimum or 4 days before, depending on what type of wedding you're having. So definitely we're looking at the destination. You want to look at that. Also, I would say consider the weather, meaning that what date are you looking to have a wedding? Because there's hurricane season, September to November. And then if you're doing the summer, everybody's out of school. It costs a little bit more to go away. Winter time, it costs a little bit more too, because that's when everyone wants to go away. Spring, you have to worry about spring break. So, and prices can be higher depending on when you're doing it. And try not to pick around a major holidays, because the fares tend to be higher. So there's a lot to consider when you're picking a wedding date. But there's people who have a wedding date already set in their mind, and that's fine. I don't say change your wedding date. Just think about when you're doing this wedding, it might cost a little bit more if you pick a date that's Valentine's Day or President's Day or Labor Day. These are days that people tend to travel because it's a holiday, so the price tend to be higher. So just just think about that when you're picking your dates to make sure that it's not during anything that's a big holiday time. So picking the right destination. So finding the right resort. So you pick the destination, then you have to find the right resort. Because you're doing a destination wedding, I think the first thing you think about, does this resort fit your vision? If you're looking to have a beach wedding, if you want to have a wedding in which you are on a rooftop, are these things available at the resort that you're picking? So definitely, if you want a beach wedding, you know the type of wedding you want a garden wedding, make sure that the resort matches that vision, because that's a big thing. You're getting married there. You want to make sure everything you want is available at that resort. The other thing is, I would say that it fits the vision, that the date and time is available. If you're doing this on your own, you have to do a lot of research. You have to be reaching out to these resorts, checking to make, I want to get married on July 5th. Is that date available? I want to get married at 5 o'clock. Is that time available? So these are two things when you're looking at resorts, you have to consider that you're going to be checking multiple resorts, because a lot of the dates and times are already gone because of COVID, the pandemic. People are getting married this year, next year. So a lot of the key dates that are popular are probably all sold out already. So that's one of the reasons why you always have to plan early, because the date you're looking for might be gone. This year, the most popular dates was 22, because the year is 22. So 4/22, 22, 2/22, 22. So anyone getting married on those dates, those are kind of the first dates to be gone, because bride like to, take those dates or pick those dates for their wedding. So definitely when you're looking at the resort, you want to make sure before you commit to anything that these are all things that are done. Has the vision you're looking for, the date you're looking for, and the time is available. You get whatever their wedding package is. You understand that to make sure that, okay, that wedding package seems good. The room categories are available. A lot of couples said, I want, it's a wedding and honeymoon in one, so I want a nice room. So you want to make sure you pick a resort that at least they have multiple room categories that you can pick to have your honeymoon. A lot of people like swim out. People, there's certain resort that have over the water bungalows that are pretty fantastic, expensive but fantastic. So you can have your wedding there and still have your honeymoon almost on the same property and having your experience. So definitely, when you're looking at the resort, you have to look at a lot of stuff to make sure that resort is the one for you. The other thing is, if you're having a family friendly wedding or you're having adult only, what type of resort is it? Are you doing all-inclusive resort? I mean, I recommend all-inclusive because like everything is included in the package. You don't have to worry about food or drinks. It's included. So once your guest gets there, they don't have to be worrying about taking out money to have dinner and all that. Everything is included. Versus if you do a hotel. When you do a hotel, it's just a room. So everything else, they got to pay extra. So I always recommend a family friendly, a all-inclusive resort. And then you look at the type of resort that it is. Is it family friendly? Is it adults only? What type of wedding you're having? And make sure that matches. Because a lot of people, if they're getting married for the first time, they don't want kids around them. They just want an adult only setting. So definitely when you're searching for a resort, make sure that it's checking like all these boxes. It's all-inclusive, family friendly, good activity, lots of room categories available. You look at, if you're doing it on your own, you definitely have to do research. Go on the hotel website, look to see what they offer, the look of the hotel, the look of the rooms. Check TripAdvisor to see any kind of reviews that people have stayed there before, to see, is the restaurants good? What the type of restaurants they have. So if you do it on your own, you really need to do some research before you make that decision. And that's why 12 months, planning 12 months out is really ideal, because it gives you time to figure out these things before you finalize which resort you're going to pick. So once you pick the resort, what is the next thing to do? I would say the next thing to do is definitely review the resort wedding package, just to make sure that you're not going to be surprised later on that, oh my God, I thought the package was only $3,500 and here my wedding is at $10,000. And that has happened. The wedding package is just the basic, meaning that some package will include, everything you need for a ceremony, a cocktail, and a reception, but it's bare minimum. It's going to be like all white tablecloth, basic stuff. You're not going to have music. You're not going to have extra decor. You're not going to have photography, videography. So when you look at a wedding package, you have to see what does it include. Does it include everything I need to get married? And what else additionally do I have to add? And how much is that going to cost me to get a good idea? Is this the right resort for me? Because this, you really have to pay for everything. Or you want a resort that includes more options for you, and and it will make it more cost efficient. But definitely you have to look at all the pieces before you make that final decision to make sure, all right, I think I can afford that. Even with this, and if I add this, I'm going to be under the $10,000 mark, if that's the number that's in your head. But you definitely have to look at the wedding package plus all the extras, because that's very important. And I also have on here, the room costs itself, because also you want to look for a resort that the 3-night cost is not like crazy, so your guests can afford it. So there's a lot of things that go into picking that resort. Is it good for your wedding? Number one, that your dates and times are available. There's multiple room categories available, so you can pick a nice room for yourself. Also, the room cost for your guests is not that crazy. And like, how far is it from the airport? Do you want to be 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away, 45 minutes away, an hour away? That can deter. You spend 3-4 hours on the plane, and then another hour to the resort. That's kind of a long trip. So if you can try to get a resort that's closer to the airport, or that's just easier to get to, that could be something that you can think about, factor in. Also, you have anyone in your family that has any disabilities, just making sure that the resort have rooms that are on the ground floor that are accessible to these type of guests, so at least everyone can come and enjoy the wedding. So reviewing the wedding costs, so looking at the options that's there and making sure that everything is good. So after you do that, I guess the next thing I would say to look at is if you want to get a group room contract. And what I mean by that is, if you're doing a wedding and you have 20 people or less, would I get a group contract? I would say no, because you're looking at reserving maybe 10 rooms. So if you give your guests enough time, you tell them specifically what resort it is, because that's very important. Like, there's Dreams Resort in Mexico. There's maybe 100 Dreams Resort in Mexico. You have to give the right name so people know where to book. So that's very important when you're picking a resort. Make sure you get the names right, because there's so many resort that starts with Dreams, and they could pick the first one in Mexico and be in the wrong resort. So just making sure that you definitely inform your guests what resort you have picked. But group room contract. So as I said, if you're doing a wedding and it's less than 20 people, would I get a group room contract? It all depends, because with a group room contract, it's a contract rate between the couple and the resort, that they're going to reserve X amount of rooms for their guests to book that's available for them. So it's rooms that are held. Most likely the couple will have to pay a deposit to hold these rooms, and they're kind of responsible for the rooms until the guest book them. Once the guest books a room, it's the guest's responsibility. And what the couple have to do is make sure that if there is dates in which they have to release these rooms that they hold, because the guest didn't book them, they have to release them, so they're not liable for any room. But that's, if you're doing that, either you're doing that directly with the hotel, or you're doing it through a travel advisor like myself. Like, I would secure a group room contract for you. I'll definitely explain to you what's the benefits of getting a group room contract, and also what the penalties are, so we don't fall in any penalties. So my job really is to keep the couple informed about what's going on, to make sure that they don't fall in any penalty. I take care of that, because I monitor the dates that they have to release the rooms for them to know that. So the reason why you would get a group room if you're having more than 20 guests, I would say think about getting that, because with what's going on now, I find that if you're getting married next year and you know the hotel you're at, and there's plenty of rooms available. But when it comes time for your guests to book the rooms might be all gone, or the category they're looking for might be all gone, and then you have to pay for the higher rate rooms. So having that group contract secures the rooms. If you book back in 15 rooms, secures them for your wedding group at a fixed price, so the price will not fluctuate. And then the guests can book whenever they want. They can book starting now and pay as they go until the dates the payments are due, which is normally 60 days, 45 to 60 days before the wedding is when the final payment is due for any kind of group group room contract. And by that time, you need to finalize your guest list that you have to send to the resort. So they kind of coincide with when the final payment is due on the room and when you have to submit your guest list to the resort so they know how many people are going to be at your wedding. So it's one and the same. But having the group contract gives you so many benefits for a couple. So definitely, if you're having over 50 room, 30 people at your wedding, I would say think of getting a room contract, because it benefits you in which you can get free rooms, meaning that depending on the resort and the time of year, some resort will tell you for every 5 room you book, you get the 6th one free, or for every 10 room you get the 11th one free. You might get a welcome cocktail included as part of your group contract. You could get a group dinner included at no additional cost. You could also get monies towards your wedding. I know for a wedding that I'm doing, for every room you book, you get like $20 towards your wedding. So that's like free money. And depending on what suppliers I use, sometimes the couple can get like up to $1,000 toward their air if they book a certain number of room nights. Say the number that's in the contract is 75 room nights. So if you book 15 rooms at 3 nights, I don't think that's 75, or you book whatever that number is, you book 75 room nights in your party, you could get up to $1,000 towards your airfare. So that's savings for the couple. So just having this group contract can give the couple a lot of benefits that they can use. Either can use a free room for their room, they can use a free room for family member, or they can get the credit back on their credit card. So there's a lot of pluses for getting a group contract. The only thing is that a couple will have to put a deposit, and sometimes deposit like is either $500, and that $500 will go back to their room. So definitely something to think about if you're getting married and you're having a lot of people come to your wedding, is to secure the room so the rooms will be available when your guests are ready to book. So that's some of the benefits of having a group room contract. Also, it helps you because it keeps track of all the people that are booked, because as a couple, you're going to tell you want to make sure all your guests book within that contract, because the more they book in the contract, the more benefits you get. And there's no benefit with them booking on their own. So you always want to say, you got to book in the room block that I have secured for you, because the more they book, the more rooms they book, the more benefits the couple is going to have. And also you can keep track of all the guests that are booked once they're in the room block, because you do get a report. Like if I'm doing the group contract, I give the couple updates, like these people are booked already, so they're aware of who was booked. They can follow up on people who have RSVP yes, but have not booked yet. So it's a good way to keep track of all the guests who are booked within going to your wedding. The other thing I would say is at this point, you can do save the date, because you have your resort secured. You have a group contract if you want to do that done. And now you're going to do your save the dates. And what I would say, if you're sending the save the dates, make sure you have the hotel right. If you're using a travel professional like myself, just making sure that my information is on there, is on there, and a link would be there. I would be able to provide you a link of how they can RSVP and book their room, because you want to make sure that you give them the right information and you tell them what to do. If you don't tell them what to do, they'll do what they want to do. They'll book wherever they want to book and not book within the group. So it's very important that when you're doing the save the date, you're trying to tell your guests that they have to book through my travel advisor, because that's where you're going to get the benefit of them booking into the group. So your save the date should have, the date you're getting married, your resort that you're getting married on, a link to where to RSVP and book. And book meaning that they're putting on a deposit. That's your RSVP. By putting on a deposit, they RSVP that they're coming to your wedding. So that's a good way to keep track of them, and for them to book within the group contract by putting all this information within your save the date. So that's definitely something you should do. The next thing is a wedding website. Should you get a wedding website? If I'm working with a couple, I actually build them a wedding website. And on that wedding website, I'm going to have nice pictures of the couple that they're getting married. I would also have information on the resort itself, the room blocks, pictures of that, what the cost is for each room, information on the schedule of the event, when the ceremony is, cocktail reception, where that is located. Also, if they're having other event like a welcome event, if they're having any kind of tour, activities that a couple want to do, like if they want to do a catamaran cruise, anything like that, that will all be included on the website. And having that wedding website is where you send all your guests to, so they're not coming to the couple all the time and bombarding them with questions. The whole idea is they're going to go to the wedding website and get all the information they need, all information on the wedding itself and how to book and reserve their room. And any question, they'll have a contact person to talk to, and that contact person would be me. So I'll be answering any question the guests would have on booking their room. If they need transfer, they need flight information, I can provide that for them, and that would alleviate the couple from answering all these questions, because you're just going to send everyone to the wedding website. So that's why you save the date should link everyone back to the wedding website, so that's where they can get information and ask their questions. So definitely, I do one for all my clients, but if you're doing it on your own, there's lots of services that provide a wedding website that you can build for your guests to collect their information and and give them all information they need for the wedding, instead of having them call you over and over again. So that's definitely something I would consider doing, is having a wedding website. So you sent out the save the dates. I'm not sure if you're doing formal invitation. People don't do formal invitation anymore, but if you are, you can send out the formal invitation. But the wedding planning begins, I would say, maybe 3 to 6 months before the wedding, because once you secure your wedding and it's a year from now, the resort is not going to really contact you. They might give you information on all the extras, the cost of this, so you can sit back and kind of figure out what you want. But the actual planning is not going to start until 3 to 6 months before the wedding. So you'll have your scheduled meeting with the wedding group department on resort, and they'll walk you through what you want for your for your ceremony, your cocktail reception, and they'll they'll have an invoice ready for you, and then you'll pay the invoice. But the process doesn't begin till like 3 to 6 months before the wedding. So don't get crazy like, oh my God, they're not contacting me, because these resorts are having weddings almost every day. So, they're not going to start planning your wedding until it's closer to your wedding date. So don't get freaked out or panic that you're not contacting me and, my wedding is coming up. They know it's coming up and they're going to take care of you. So they try to provide you with all the information you need to make decisions on what you want for your wedding. And then when the meeting happens, it's just really finalizing all the stuff, all the items you wanted, and making that payment on your wedding. So that is how that would happen. So I would say two weeks or so before the wedding, what the couple should be doing would be getting their bags packed, getting their wedding attire together, any documentation that they need to have with them. You need to start, gathering that, whether it's your birth certificate, marriage certificate, any original documents you need to bring with you, having all that. Making sure, your passport should have been checked already, but make sure you have your passport, you know where it is. Because I've had people who have a passport, but when it comes time for them to travel, they can't find it. So just making sure that all the information you need, all the things you need are there within 2 weeks. You want to make sure everything is there, and it's a matter of just really packing it. If you have, welcome bag, those are packed, whatever you need to bring with you are packed. So 2 weeks before, you should be finalizing everything, getting everything packed. When you get to the resort, which is 2 to 3 days before, you're going to meet, most likely you'll have a appointment set up with the wedding department to meet, to go do a final walkthrough. That will be the next day after you arrive. So you arrive on the hotel day one, the next day you'll be meeting with the wedding department to finalize and walk through what you've agreed upon, to make sure nothing needs to be changed, so you can have your wedding. And also they'll go over any kind of events that you already scheduled, whether it's welcome cocktail, rehearsal dinner, all those things will be confirmed, and make sure that the location and everything, all the decor that you wanted is there and available. And then, you're going to welcome all your guests, hopefully have your wedding, and then have your happily ever after. So that is really the wedding planning process. And I didn't really put dates to it because each person is going to go at a different rate. But the general idea is that if you're thinking of having a destination wedding, you need to start planning at least 12 months or more in advance, so you can take the time to do the research to find a perfect destination, find the resort, review the wedding packages to make sure it's really what you want. Send your save the dates out to your guests at least 6 to 12 months before the wedding, so they have time to plan to come to your wedding. So you always want to give them ample notice. And then, hopefully you have a way of, if you're not using a wedding planner to do it, you do it on your own, just making sure that once you send that save the date out, you have a point person, whether it's you or not. I'm not sure if you want it to be you, to capture all your guest information. Meaning that if certain people RSVP to your wedding and they've booked, I don't think you're going to check their booking, but just to make sure the dates they're coming there, they're at the right hotel, they're on your list, and to keep a running list of all the guests that have booked. The other thing is communication. How are you going to communicate to your guests for all your wedding days? You have to collect their email address, their telephone number, put emails together to communicate to them what's going on so they're informed. That's a service that I provide for the couple, so they don't have to think about that. Once people are booked, I got all their email information. I have their telephone numbers. I can reach out to them to send them any pertinent information they need for the wedding, follow up with them with payments or booking. So I am doing all this while the couple is only really thinking about the actual wedding planning, and that's all part of it. I don't want couples to be bombarded with thinking about these details of who booked where, what, where's their reservation. I monitor, all their confirmations for their hotel. I give them their reservations. I make sure that if they have transfer, that they get on their transfer. They know when their pickup time is for the transfer. And I try to help them as much as I can so everything runs smoothly for the couple. So that's part of the service I provide from the beginning to the end. I'm there with the couple, with the planning part of it, of picking the right resort, to helping them, with the arrangement for all their guests, and keeping them abreast of what's going on, what events are taking place, where they're taking place, to make sure everyone shows up where they need to be showing up. So, hopefully I helped you with just understanding the destination wedding planning process. If you have any questions about this process, if you need help, you can reach out to me. I'm more than happy to assist you with help in planning your wedding. And until next time, I will see you with more tips on planning your destination wedding.